We got a Big Brother vlog that's a week late. We're going to talk about how Dan is king. He is unbelievable and made quite possibly the biggest move in Big Brother history. I would have to go back and review a couple seasons just to make sure, but off the top of my head, I'm saying it's the biggest move ever. Somehow or another, Frank, who had been trying to get him out since day one, Frank has HOH, Frank puts Dan up, Frank's ally member, former teammate Jen, wins POV, in the process taking slop for the rest of the season, which isn't all that long, but still, taking slop for the rest of the season to get the POV. Dan holds a funeral for himself, attacks his biggest ally in the house, Danielle, in the process, leaving her a blubbering mess. Then convinces Frank that they should work together and that Frank should convince Jen to take Dan down off the block. Oh, did I forget to mention that during the POV contest that Frank agreed to wear a carrot suit for a week and not compete in HOH the next time he was available, because obviously he wouldn't be able to compete the next week because he was the HOH. So in essence, he wouldn't be able to compete for HOH for 2 weeks. He's got to wear a carrot costume. He got a chum bath, which was pretty every hour for a day. So overnight, kept waking him up. Wasn't as bad as the one that Brendan had to get, but. And then his ally Jen takes slop for the rest of the season to ensure that Dan does not get the POV, and then they turn around and they use the POV on Dan to save him. In turn, putting Brittany up on the block and voting her out. How does this happen? Frank, who claims to be the superfan and that this has been basically his sole purpose in life was to be on Big Brother, cannot see through this. If you're a fan of the show, even a casual fan of the show, you knew coming into the season that people considered Dan one of the best players, if not the best player in the history of Big Brother. They would rank him no worse than 2 behind Will. And yet, you choose to keep this dangerous guy in the house? I mean, I can see why at times. Hey, I worked with Dan. He's the best. He knows what he's doing. He wouldn't steer me wrong. Survey says wrong. So basically, Dan takes himself off the block, or gets himself taken off the block. Frank's pissed at Ian now because Dan ratted Ian out. Ian can't go up because he won a second POV during the week during Pandora's Box. Ooh, shocker, Pandora's Box. Expect the unexpected. Except that we all expected it. So he puts up Brittany, who is Ian's closest ally, and they all vote her out. The best part of it was during the POV ceremony when Jen used the POV and then Brittany got put up, was just the look on Brittany's face and the look on Ian's face. I like both of them as players, Brittany more so than Ian. I really like Brittany, she brought a lot to the house. But it was still fun to see the reactions on their face. Anyway, so Dan saves himself, all is good in the world, and then I realize it's Wednesday, we got a live eviction again tomorrow. Frank and Joe are up on the block because Ian became HOH, which made everybody worried, but Ian wanted to bring back the Quack Pack, so they brought back the Quack Pack, which means they put up Jen and Frank. Of course, Dan was like, don't worry to Frank because they have a final 2 deal. You know what? Hey, newsflash to people in the Big Brother house. I have a final 2 deal with Dan. Anyway, so Frank and Jen go up. Frank can't win the POV. Well, I mean, he can, but he didn't. Who wins the POV? Dan wins the POV. So Dan wins the POV, but he can't take Frank off because he doesn't want people to know that he's working with Frank. But he can take Jen down off the block because Jen took him off the block. Tit for tat. Good for the goose, good for the gander. The old switcheroo flip-flop. So anyway, now Frank's convinced that he's staying. Well, maybe he's not convinced he's staying. But I probably should have said there might be some spoilers in this one. But anyway, since the POV ceremony is tonight. But, so that's the bottom line. Is Dan the greatest player in the history of Big Brother? Not yet. Not yet. He's got to get at least to the final two, I think, to be considered the greatest player, because when Will won season 2, there was no such thing as POV and all that. Now, I realize he didn't have have-nots and that type of thing, but the early seasons were much more difficult to live in that house than they are in the current season. So I give Will the advantage, and he did finish 4th. Got bugs in the car. Finished 4th at All-Stars. You know, Dan, in theory, Dan would have to get at least to 4th to be considered the greatest, to have a shot at it. But this move was just huge, and so we'll see what happens. It's raining, or it's supposed to rain today, so the top's all up. I know you care. I vlog because you care. And that's it. I guess I need a new steering wheel cover. It does say Redskins, but that's another blog. Bye!